it gave me a lot of good experience that, was practical and that a lot of people don't get, especially now in the way TV is made. All too often, they're writing the whole season and then shooting it. And so the writers are all done and off to the next job and don't get the chance to be on set and have production experience generally. I mean, some shows are still doing that, but it's not the norm anymore.
Open the podcast bay door as hell.
Hello everyone, these are the Welcome to Geektown interviews. I'm your host, Kurt Onstead. This is the third and final part of my interview with Jay Faerber. He started his writing career in superhero comics, and has gone on to write quite a bit of genre television. A few of the projects we discussed this episode combine those two, starting with the animated series that was inspired by the MCU, but didn't tie directly into it, Avengers Assemble. So, getting into some of the specifics of some of your projects, you wrote 2 episodes of Avengers Assemble.
Yes.
Alongside the Man of Action team.
Yep.
Is writing animation different from writing live action?
That experience was different because I co-wrote it with them. And this was Man of Action is the collective name of Joe Casey, Joe Kelly, Steve Siegel, and Duncan Rouleau for 3 writers, 1 artist, although Duncan also writes, I believe. And they created the animated series Ben 10 and have worked a lot in animation. And I know all of them from comics from our times at Marvel, mainly Joe Casey in particular. And so Joe had said to me at one point, like, hey, if you're ever in between TV gigs, we're doing all this animation stuff. I can throw you some work. And when Ringer ended, I was like, yeah, I would like some work. And so they sent me 2 outlines for episodes. And it was my job to turn those outlines into scripts. So it was like a day's work. They had it all beaten out, like I described to you. I just had to go in and add dialogue. And what was really interesting was they had a quota. The biggest difference for me was in a live action script, the script looks a certain way. In the animated script, each line of dialogue has like a line number associated with it, which I think it's to be able to easily say to a voice actor, like line 67, say it this way. But they gave me like a quota of like, it needs to be between this number and this number, many lines of dialogue in the script.
Okay.
So I've never written that way with having to kind of make sure that they're not talking too much or too little. But it was still pretty simple. I mean, there are some jokes that I made in the script that made it in. But like the actual what happened in the episodes was all decided ahead of me. I never went into the office. I wasn't involved in any of the animation or recording or anything. But so writing it was pretty simple. We could talk about this when we get there. I've had more animation experience on Invincible and the thing I'm working on now.
Right. Yeah. And I do have questions on both of those.
Sure.
So the next one was Zoo.
Yes.
And in addition to writing 3 or 4 episodes per season for that show, you're also credited as a story editor for season 1, executive story editor for season 2, and then co-producer for season 3.
Yep.
What's the difference between those 3 positions, or are they really just the same job with fancier titles?
Those are all levels of being a writer in Hollywood. When you break in as a writer and you're staffed on a show, the lowest on the ladder, the lowest rung in the ladder is a staff writer. Then it goes story editor, then executive story editor, then co-producer, then producer, then supervising producer, then co-executive producer, then executive producer. So if you create the show and you're the showrunner, you're the executive producer generally. If you're really new and happen to get lightning in a bottle and sell a show, you might get stuck at co-executive producer, but generally an executive producer is the showrunner. And then there's also a title called consulting producer that is it usually means part-time writer. It's usually an experienced writer who they only have money for part-time, or it's somebody that they have a deal with who has a development deal with the studio, and they get assigned to a show part-time while they're developing their pilot with the studio.
Okay.
So those are all just levels of like seniority of writers.
Are there any specific extra responsibilities assigned to those titles, or does it just vary from show to show?
It kind of varies from show to show. It really just varies on the showrunner. I think it's common on shows where like a co-executive producer is frequently what's called, the number two, the right-hand man. The number two will frequently have some authority. They'll run the room when the showrunner isn't in there. They'll read a script first and give notes, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they generally have more kind of senior responsibilities. Some showrunners it'll depend on kind of your seniority as to how much they'll want you to talk on notes calls with executives and stuff. It's common for inexperienced writers to just kind of listen. It's always a conference call. And the showrunner, even if your name's on the script, the showrunner takes the call and, interacts with the executives and defends things they may not like and, answers their questions. And generally, again, it varies between showrunners, but for most showrunners, once you're at the producer, supervising producer, co-EP level, you're invited to kind of chime in and speak up for yourself in these kind of experiences. And some shows, none of those writers have power. Some shows, the showrunner wants control of everything and delegates very little.
Yeah. I'm aware of some shows where the the showrunner is lord over all.
Yes. I've been fortunate to not have experience with that kind of boss. But and on Zoo, I was lucky that we did have responsibility. Zoo was very inclusive in the sense that, like, as a writer, I went to every meeting for my episode, and our showrunners trusted us. Like, I ran all the meetings for my episodes. He rarely came. We would get sent to set. I would be on set all the time producing my episodes, and that was great. Like, we would, do those notes calls. We wouldn't get rewritten very often. He would just, trust that we knew where the story was going. So that was, it gave me a lot of good experience that, was practical and that a lot of people don't get, especially now in the way TV is made. All too often they're writing the whole season and then shooting it. And so the writers are all done and off to the next job and don't get the chance to be on set and have production experience. Generally, I mean, some shows are still doing that, but it's not the norm anymore.
Mm-hmm. With set visits and such, you lived in New York and LA at various points, so you probably had already had some celebrity interactions at some point. And celebrities are just regular people for the most part. But did you ever have a moment on set where you did get starstruck or have a fan moment?
Oh yeah, I'm a big fanboy. I mean, my first show I got to write for Buffy. Sarah Michelle Gellar. Like that was huge. I was a big Buffy fan. So yeah, I was definitely, starstruck around her. I remember texting my sister one day where we were on set and I was like, Sarah Michelle Gellar said I got a nice haircut and stuff like that. But yeah, and guest stars is where it would really come into play too, because and some shows the writers get to be involved in casting things and making suggestions and stuff. On an episode of, was it Ringer? Yeah, I think it was Ringer. We had Jonathan Banks from Breaking Bad, and that was awesome. I was a fan of his from his days on Wise Guy, and so to get him, like the whole staff was nerding out over him.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for writers to nerd out, depending on the actor.
Now, you then came back to superheroes as a producer and writer on Supergirl.
Yep.
Unlike the other shows you'd worked on up to this point, you didn't start with season 1, but came in on season 5.
Yeah.
How did that change the dynamics for you?
It was interesting. It was very different for me, as you said, because I had always been on shows from the ground floor. we were all meeting each other at the same time. I mean, generally, some people knew each other ahead of time.
Yeah.
But Supergirl, like I was coming into an environment where these people had all worked together for 4 or 5 years, most of them. So it was me and another guy named Jay, who also came in at the same time, were the new guys. And yeah, it was a little daunting. I mean, they're all very, very nice. But it just, there's that new kid in school kind of feeling, which I never was. I went to the same school my whole life. So it was a little daunting, but it didn't really change the dynamics that well. The job is still the same. And I was brought onto that show specifically because they needed more like comic book nerds. So I kind of knew what they wanted from me.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, other than one episode written by Sterling Gates, you're the only person on the writing team that I recognize as coming from comics.
Yeah.
Did they turn to you for comic book lore to throw into the show, or?
Yeah, it was that, and they just wanted somebody who had experience in that world, who just kind of knew the tropes and knew what would get frustrating for me and for them is, we'd be talking about something happening to Supergirl, or we'd be talking about a villain that she's encountering or something, and they'd say, well, what is it? How is it in the comics? Or what's the canon in comics? And I was always like, well, but it's like, there's no one answer to that. Like, which version?
Pre-crisis, post-crisis?
Yeah. Are we talking about like the Peter David Matrix Supergirl? Are we talking about the 80s Supergirl? Are we talking like which, like it's whatever we want it to be is the answer. Right. I would have to keep giving them. But our showrunners, God bless them, just were not comic book people. And so this was all like a foreign language to them. So it was a little challenging I felt bad because I was like, they would want like my answer to give them clarity, and it almost never did. Comic book continuity.
Oh, yeah. Especially DC with their reboots every 5-10 years, it seems like at this point.
Yeah, it's and that's what I had to stress to them is that my knowledge, I wasn't super up on the current stuff. Like the New 52, I didn't really read much of that. And I've been getting back into DC lately, but most of my knowledge was like 80s and 90s, early 2000s. That was my bread and butter.
Yeah. Well, speaking of comics of the 80s, you were working on every episode in some capacity since you were a producer, but the second script you're credited with was part 1 of the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover.
Yeah.
How complicated was working on the beginning of that endeavor, and how much did the other writers of the other shows talk to each other both normally and then during the crossover?
It was awesome. The way we did it, because they had done crossovers before.
Right.
I was never there. And on the Supergirl staff, most of them didn't want to do the crossovers. Again, they weren't comic book nerds. So to them, because they're a logistical nightmare, and it disrupts the flow of your season. And with Supergirl especially, Supergirl debuted on CBS,
right?
Not the CW. And so it had its own continuity. It wasn't supposed to be part of those shows. They did a crossover with The Flash where they did a, dimensional portal to another parallel world. And then when Supergirl got picked up on the CW, for her first 4 seasons, she was on a different Earth than all the other CW superhero shows. So this Crisis was, we made the decision, and not we, it came from higher up than me, but the decision was made to integrate the Earths, and that Supergirl's Earth was going to get destroyed and she would come to our Earth, or to the CW's Earth. And I know the bosses weren't crazy about that, because it scared them. They're like, what do you mean? Like, we're losing our Earth? Like, if you're not a comic book person, imagine trying to wrap your head around that. So yeah, they were not enthusiastic about the whole thing. But I went to them and I was like, look, I'm happy to do whatever you need me to do. I serve at your pleasure. If you need somebody to work on Crisis, like, please pick me. I would love to work on Crisis. And they gave it to me. They're like, fine, if you want it, go for it. So they gave it to me and Derek Simon, another one of their writers who'd been there from day one, I think. And so they had like a Crisis writer's room where it was a different room in the building. And Mark Guggenheim, who, one of the fathers of the Arrowverse, was kind of the showrunner for Crisis. So Mark was in there. Derek and I, Robert Rovner, one of our showrunners, would come sometimes some of the other showrunners would kind of be there sometimes. Eric Wallace from The Flash, Keto from Legends. Gosh, I forget who actually was running Arrow at the time. Oh, no, Keto was Legend. Sorry, I'm going to forget somebody. But they had all the, it was basically 2 writers from every show would be gathered in this writer's room a couple days a week. And we would just like, I think Mark already had a very basic template for how he thought this would work that he had already pitched to. No, he hadn't pitched it, but he had an idea. And so we built off this idea and then got him enough material so that he could go pitch it to the studio and the network. I mean, they had already agreed to do it, but they just wanted to know what the story was.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun for us just to nerd out, to just be like, okay, here's the crisis storyline from the comics. How do we adapt that to our universe and to our world? And what moments do we want to try to replicate? And then the big thing is like, what other DC TV and movie characters do we want to bring in? Like once we got on that trick, it was so much fun. I mean, the room was like electric when I think we were talking about having an old Batman, having like the Kingdom Come Batman. And like, boy, who should we get? And I'm 99% sure it was Keto who pitched
Kevin Conroy.
Kevin. I want to say Bruce Conroy. No, but it's Kevin Kevin Conroy, Bruce Wayne. Yes, she pitched Kevin Conroy because she was a huge animated series fan. And everybody was just like, of course, that'll be genius. And we did that and getting Tom Welling to come back. And yeah, just so many of the cameos and the deep cuts that we were able to utilize was just super fun and pretty streamlined. Like Mark, because it was all the nerds working on it, we all kind of understood the assignment. So it was it was a pretty streamlined experience. I remember one time, I don't even remember what hour this aired in. I think it might have aired in hour 4, but there was a fight between Supergirl and Lex Luthor. And Mark was writing the episode, but he just called me up and was like, hey, I need like a 2-page fight with Supergirl and Lex. They're in this such and such a place. Can you give me something? I was like, sure. And like just dive in, 2-page fight, some quips, some taunting, and off to Mark. And then, yeah, it's in the episode. So yeah, it was incredible fun.
I can only imagine. That sounds awesome.
And then you asked about how much we talked. So we were all in the writer's room together. But then when we went up to Vancouver to shoot it, I also lucked out and got to go up for my episode. And they did what they call cross-boarding for these episodes, which is that they shot them out of sequence. And so they were shooting all 5 episodes basically at the same time, all over Vancouver.
Okay.
And shuttling the actors from one set to another. I remember one night we had shot a bunch of stuff and then we had a nighttime scene and we needed the flash, and Grant Gustin had fallen behind. Not he didn't fall behind, but the production fell behind on whatever scene he was involved in before that. And so all of us were just kind of had to wait around. And at one point we filmed something using his stunt double that we normally wouldn't have. But it was like, we got to do something. But it was awesome. And so there were writers from all the shows up there. And so we would see each other. I would follow the Supergirl actors, basically. So when they were shooting the stuff that I wrote, I would go where they were going. But there were times where, the show was shooting on Supergirl stages, but I wasn't there because it was for a different episode, that kind of thing. And yeah, I remember there was going to be a scene in the Daily Planet, which didn't exist because there wasn't a show that had that set
right
at that time. And so they took Supergirl's Cat Coast set and just tweaked it to make it the Daily Planet. And so I was there for that day. I think that was the first day I got there. I just remember walking through and meeting Tyler and Brandon. They were both dressed as Clark at that point, but that was pretty cool. I also have on my phone the video of Brandon, his wardrobe fitting with him in his Kingdom Come Superman outfit, running towards the camera in slow motion. It was pretty awesome. Yeah, so just to do that stuff with a group of nerds who all appreciated it as much as you did. Oh, here's another funny story. We got Burt Ward, who played Robin on the Adam West series. We got him, and the way we got him, I believe it was Sterling Gates, who had gone to a convention with Bert, and I think sat next to him on the plane, maybe, or in a cab. And I guess Bert is a huge dog lover and makes his own dog food, has like a dog food brand. And the phone number on the dog food like goes to him personally, I believe. So I think Stuart was like, we should get Burt Ward and do Robin. I was like, oh, that'd be awesome. Like, do we know how do we get in touch with Burt Ward? And then Sterling is like, yeah, it's, I think I have his number from this dog food thing. And I'm pretty sure that's how we got it. And we got Burt Ward. He was in my episode. And yeah, we gave him an Ace the Bat Hound because he loves dogs so much. And yeah,
I was going to say, yeah, I remember him having a dog with him.
Yeah.
That wasn't his personal dog?
I don't think so. No, I'm pretty sure that was like a working dog.
Okay.
Because I think I remember him meeting the dog. He was very sweet with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, after Supergirl came to a close with season 6, from what I can find, there seems to be a bit of a gap in your resume.
There was a long, dark winter. Yes. Yeah, there was a gap.
Do you mind talking about what you did during that time?
In between crying. No, I'm kidding. It was just a slow period. You know, I didn't get staff. We had a strike. There was the pandemic. Well, the pandemic happened during Supergirl, actually.
Yeah.
I was actually we were filming the season 5 finale when COVID hit and we shut down. So that was another first for me, is escaping a production during the pandemic. But yeah, it was slow. I got some development work, which in Hollywood means like somebody paid me to write a pilot, you know, to pitch a series. So I did that. I did some comics. I was working on a novel, and I just worked on a lot of pitches. You know, with TV, a lot of times the way to sell a show is you just pitch it. You go and you describe it to somebody. It's a whole like song and dance. And so I did a lot of those, came close a few times. But yeah, it was bleak. I'm fortunate that I'm married to a woman who has a decent job, and we were able to, you know, keep the lights on, and I didn't have to go stock shelves, but it got, you know, it was disheartening for a while there. But I was always writing. Every day I was here writing something.
Mm-hmm. Do you have like a kind of a set schedule for writing for you, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a schedule, sort of a habit. Yeah, I'm a morning person, so I like to be at my desk like by 9 at the latest, earlier if I can. And then I'll answer emails and then write and try to get, you know, I use lunch as like a motivating factor of like, you can have lunch when you hit X, whether it's a certain number of pages or I finished a scene. There'll be some landmark that I'll give myself to lunchtime. And then depending on what's going on in my life, I write after lunch or I don't. And I knock off and watch a movie or something. It all just depends on what's going on, how urgently I need something done.
So the next credited work I see for you is an episode of Invincible.
Yeah.
And as we talked about earlier, you included Invincible, Omni-Man, other Robert Kirkman characters in your early Image titles. Was there any discussion of sneaking in the Nobles or Dino 5 into the show?
No, that was enough. I mean, I didn't even try. It was just like legally, it never would have happened. Unless I was going to sign away ownership to Robert, which I would never do.
Right.
No, we joked about it, but no.
Okay. Did working with Kirkman at Image help lead to that Invincible episode?
It was a straight line. It was literally, what had happened was before I got Supergirl, so years ago, this was like 2018, 2019, I think they had just finished writing the first season of Invincible. And they were about to start writing the second. They hadn't been greenlit for a second season yet. But Robert made an introduction between me and the showrunner, Simon, because Simon wanted like a number 2. He wanted help for season 2. And, you know, it was too much for him because animation, you know, you write all the scripts and they get animated and then there'd be rewrites and notes and stuff. And it's just a lot to handle. And so he was looking for like a lieutenant, and we had a great meeting. And then he was like, well, you know, I don't know when they're going to greenlight the room. Like they're still dragging their heels. And then Supergirl happened. I got that offer and couldn't turn that down.
No.
And so nothing ever came of the Invincible thing. But then after Supergirl ended, I got a note from Simon being like, hey, are you going to be around in February? I might have something for you. And I was like, yeah. And then pretty soon it was, hey, do you want to be in the writer's room for Invincible season 3? And yeah, I was like, hell yes. And that was super fun. It was a very short room. It was only 2 weeks. They're able to move that quickly because the show is so faithful to the comics. You're not really having to break story. It's more about what content from what issues are going to be in a given episode.
Okay.
And then the writer just has to kind of organize it a little bit. But it was literally like, we got sent PDFs of all the comics, but I just had my stack of Invincible singles on the tape. Once I knew the range of issues we were using to just flip through and see scenes. And it was one of my favorite eras of Invincible. It was when he got the new costume and Kid Omni-Man was around. And it was so much fun.
I always found it funny that Invincible's costume was basically the Image logo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It looks like it's been about 5 years since your last comic book work. The Over My Dead Body graphic novel is the last thing I see.
Yeah. What about Area 510? Was that before that or was that after that?
I may have...
That might have
missed that.
Let me see when that was. That was a hardcover I did at Oni.
Okay.
And that came out in 2022.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that is more recent.
So do you have any comic book work, any projects you're working on at the moment? Anything planned?
I do. I have a graphic novel that is set up at Image that I'm just waiting on the artist to finish. He's just got the tail end of it to go, and then we'll figure out when it's going to come out and all that stuff. But it's sort of a crime mystery. It's more like a cozy mystery. It's a little bit of a supernatural thing. It's a little romantic. It's investigative. And if it does well, hopefully there'll be more.
Awesome.
And then I've also got a pitch in, I think it's at Boom right now. And if they don't want it, we'll take it somewhere else. It's like a vampire thing. And then I'm kicking around one other idea that I might do, another superhero thing, superhero adjacent.
Okay. But
I haven't decided to really pull the trigger on that yet.
Well, from your Blue Sky bio, I know what your current gig is right now, which is writing on season 2 of Creature Commandos.
Mm-hmm.
With the comics and then Supergirl, this is your third time working in an interconnected DC universe.
Yep.
How would you compare each of those experiences? How are they like? How are they different?
This one is still too new because we're still early days. Like we haven't started on scripts yet or anything.
Okay.
We're still just breaking the season, but it's fun. Like I love continuity in superhero worlds and
yeah.
And I mean, I went nuts for the new Superman movie and I love Peacemaker. And so to just be able to play in that world is a ton of fun. I think there's great things happening over there right now.
One of the things I liked about season 1 was how each episode really focused strongly on one character.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've read, some new characters are being added to the team this season, including King Shark. There's a vampire and a mummy.
Yeah, those showed up at the end.
Will we get the same kind of character studies for these new additions, do you think?
The answer, yes, there will be deep dives into characters. In the same way that there were in season 1. But I'm hesitating because I got in trouble on Supergirl for speaking publicly and I didn't even say anything controversial. So I'm just trying to think if I even want to keep this question in or if I should just answer it differently. Because I know you have questions and I want to answer them, but I could get in trouble if they think that I am, giving an interview for the show,
I understand.
Or we could just leave all this in. That's fine too.
Yeah, you're being politic. You're understandable. You have, I'm sure NDAs and and other agreements that you have signed that say you can't say certain things. Yeah. And I certainly appreciate that. And I'm not gonna push you to say anything you're uncomfortable with.
I wish I could, and it sounds like I'm being secret because there's like backstage drama, and it's really I just don't want to get in trouble. I am not the showrunner. I am not empowered to speak about the show.
That makes total sense.
Other than to say that it's great.
Good. I'm glad you're having fun. I remember seeing the Blue Sky post the other day of talking about Superman in the new movie in the writer's room, and how how fun it is to be able to do that for work.
Yes, to be able to talk about a new movie and dissect it and analyze it, and it's for work is who could ask for anything more? It's a nerd's dream come true.
Did you again, if this is breaking any sort of NDA or anything, feel free to ignore it, but as somebody working in the DC universe, did you get any early access to Superman or any of the other?
I got to see the movie like 2 days early. I think I saw it on Tuesday, the week it came out. Warner Brothers, and it wasn't because I'm on Creature Commandos particularly. It's Warner Brothers had screenings for all their employees on the lot. It was just kind of, you sign up for a specific time and it's first come, first serve. And so my wife and I got into a 5:00 screening on that Tuesday. It was great. And I already had tickets to see it, but getting to see it early was a treat.
Yeah. I got to see it Tuesday because they did a special Amazon Prime screening.
Oh, cool.
But I had to pay through the nose for that. So
but hey, man, was it worth it?
Oh, absolutely.
Good. You liked it?
I loved it. And then I went and saw it again next week with my chosen family.
Oh, cool. That's great. Yeah, my son is at sleepaway camp right now. I pick him up tomorrow, and I can't wait to take him to the movie because he was at camp when the movie came out. But yeah, we've already got our tickets. I can't wait to see it again.
Yeah. Your cap there has the Superman logo, but with the number 5. Is that for season 5 of Supergirl?
Yeah, this was a Christmas present, I think, for the staff. Yeah, season 5.
Okay. And then I've kind of already touched on any upcoming projects, but I'm curious, do you ever have any desire to go back to some of your older works and revisit those characters at all?
Occasionally. When I was writing that little 8-page story for the Image anthology that was a kind of a check-in on some of my superhero books, that gave me the itch a little bit. And I started to think, I wonder if I could do this again. I toyed very briefly with the notion of doing a sort of an ensemble book that basically just, I could use any of those characters that I used to have, that I created in the body of this one book. But I never got around to doing anything with it. I'm very skeptical that the market would support it, that we could financially pull it off, sadly.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Although I've been seeing the stats on sales going up in the comic book industry, so
they are.
Maybe.
I don't know how much appetite. I don't think there's that much nostalgia. I'd probably have more luck starting something new than trying to resurrect something old. But I don't know. If Image came to me and said, "Hey, we think this would be a good idea," I would definitely consider it. But they have not done that.
Thank you once again to Jay Faerber for coming on to the show. I'm looking forward to seeing his contribution to the Creature Commando series and any other future work of his. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with my next interview. And as a quick reminder, if you want to help the show going, you can become a patron for just $1 per month. That works out to less than 4 cents a day to get access to the full uncut version of all my interviews, as well as a monthly shout out and written and extra audio content from the previous version of the show. If you'd like a free way to help the show out, leaving a 5-star review at Apple Podcasts or other podcast site is always appreciated. Either way, as long as you continue to listen, we'll always say,
welcome to Geektown. Population, us.
Questions for the Welcome to Geektown interviews are written by me, Kurt Onstead. I also host, edit, and produce the podcast. Theme song was written by Aaron Lovitz, logo art by Archie Santana.